am going to attempt to create some cards, only using things that maybe you have at home. Some regular felt tip markers, some regular Crayola crayons, some less expensive craft paint, and just like tools you might have at home. Like this is an old credit card, and so I figured let's try and see what this would look like. So I'm just starting with some scrapbook paper that I just had laying around and I cut up. I am just scribbling now with those rose art felt markers. Some of them are better than others. I'm going to add a little bit more structure to the thinner paper because it's just scrapbook paper by gluing on some old book pages, and I'm just looking around and figuring out. So I'm not starting with cardstock, so it always helps to add a little bit more texture and structure to a piece of paper if you're not starting out with a heavier weight paper to start with. So I'm just reading around and trying to figure out what to stick as the background. I had tested out all of those rose art markers on the page on the right to start with, just to see if they were all dried up, because my kids just don't use them anymore. But we had them, and that's kind of what gave me the idea to try to do this with things that you might have laying around. And if you have your kids' Crayola crayons and just some felt tip markers, that'll do the job. And I did realize as I was using Mod Podge, I think at some point I start to use Mod Podge to glue some things down. It does make the water-based markers smear a little bit, but again, this is like not a project where you have to really worry about that. I think those unexpected things that happen create interest, and so don't be afraid of that. Just keep going. So I grabbed out some napkins that were specifically, these are like, this brand is Jane Davenport, but you can use any napkins. And so what I did was I peeled apart the layers, because napkins have 2 or 3 layers sometimes, and you want the colorful layer. And so you have to find a way to just kind of rip and find in between and just get that one layer of napkin. And that's what I was doing there. So now I'm just adding some more color and depth. As I'm doing this, I'm trying to get maybe a little bit of an idea of what kind of colors I want to use. And if you're limited colors, just kind of go with that. So still using Mod Podge. I think as I'm doing this voiceover, it's hard because I can't see the whole video. Again, I probably could if I could figure out how, as I use this more, I'll hopefully get better. So still just squeezing a little bit on that. Mod Podge, I use a few different brushes that are for the glue, just because it can ruin your brushes. So just stick to a certain couple. This one's like a really old brush that I just wash out and keep using for glue, but it doesn't freak me out if it gets kind of stuck on there. Just letting it dry a little bit. Those napkins lift a lot, but if they're wet, they get kind of gloppy. You can also, I have a hairdryer just sitting over here to my left, but I didn't want to have to use that, so you can use a hairdryer to dry all that. So I'm just taking a little bit of white paint, super cheap white paint, in place of what I was using it was called gesso, and just trying to blend out those edges again, getting a feel for where I want the colors, and just kind of creating a better surface so I'm not so distracted by all the harsh end lines of the pages and things, or feeling distracted by too much color. Then I don't know what just waiting for it to dry, more drying. Sometimes with the cheaper paints, it does take a little bit longer to dry, which is kind of interesting. I think it's because they have more water in them maybe than they do the pigment. So I'm adding a pink color, and I just sprayed some water into there to thin it out, was the intention. And then I'm going to just kind of stipple with a brush and just see where it lands. And I think my feeling was like, oh, it's a little thicker than I wanted it to be. But because there's so much water in it, it's easy to spread around. And then you still get the background elements peeking through. So I'm going to add a little bit of this blue, and I added a little less this time and more water, which is it's a really beautiful blue because I want some depth. I don't want to just do a bunch of light colors. I want to create some contrast, so I'm blending that in. And I'm realizing about now, like, oh, maybe this looks a little bit, I was thinking like a baby shower card or something, because it's got the pinks and the blues and the yellows, which aren't necessarily personally appealing to me, but I'm experimenting here. I really haven't used these products, and so I'm just trying things out. So I put some more felt tip marker in there, thinking maybe that would be a thinner substrate and it would show through more. And these markers that I'm using are old, so it's kind of a crapshoot whether they actually are working or not. I'm not sure. I think I'm looking for more dark elements. I'm gonna add a little bit of gray, just to create maybe a more muted, muting out those kind of primary feeling colors, the pinks and the blues and the yellows, trying to pull it into the darkness a little bit more, which is more appealing to me. Again, I've got a lot of layers on there now, so I'm having to let those dry as we go. Now I need fluorescence. So I found a couple of fluorescent crayons. I'm trying those to see if that will give me what I want out of the fluorescent feeling. Got to pick those up, get them to dry a little bit better, because too many layers, too much wetness, you're not going to get anything to stick after a while. And again, with the wax crayons, it'll go over things, but really only if it's dry, not if it's wet. So I'm just trying to see what can add a little bit more contrast, see if those markers will work. Because I really am at that stage where I'm wanting to create the lines and the interest in the dark and the light. So now I'm just taking that old credit card and I'm putting white on the edge of it, trying to create something that'll pop forward a little bit more rather than just using the white to blend out the colors. I'm wanting to create some lines and interest. Just continuing with that as I go. And so at this stage, I'm moving toward wrapping up. Those color crayons did not give me the fluorescent that I wanted, so I just grabbed, again, another cheap paint. It's quite translucent, but it does make that pop of fluorescent that I really love. And again, it's pulling it away from that pastel feeling, and more into more bold colors. A lot of drying. And you can still see some of the stamps and the lines of the book pages coming out and still creating that raw edge and texture. Now I'm wanting those black elements. I want to get that fake writing in there and see if I can do that. But that black felt pen was not doing it. That crayon was not doing it. I could not find a black crayon to save my life. And so I am going to grab one of my Pitt pens, I think, at some point and go over that. I want it to be a bold black. I don't want it to be muted. I can mute it out if I want to with white, but I really want to start with something bold. You can always push it back into the background if it's not working out. So that's where I'm working with that. And the China marker too is still a really good thing to have, and they last a long time and they're just really inexpensive. So as you can see, it's kind of shaping up. I'm adding some white, again, more white dots or things just to make it pop out more. But it was a little too much, so I just grab a napkin and I go over it and I kind of mute it out again. So it's just layers and layers of deciding if I'm done or not. And I'm going to get that highlighter out in place of that Liquitex marker that I had used before. This is felt tip, and again, this doesn't really go over the paint very well. It's not as bold as the actual acrylic paint pen that would go over it. So that shows, it shows me that there's just certain tools for the job, and those tools work the best, but you can do it with highlighters. It still gave something, darkened or brightened that pink a little bit more. Just adding some dots and blending that out. So to me, I'm really pleased with it. And so I wanted to go around the edges just so it didn't look like this hard edge. Just with the white, you can do it with black. You can even create kind of that feeling of a muted edge with black or brown or something. The black or brown would make it more aged looking, more antique, if you're gonna go with that direction. Just hitting up the credit card again, just defining those lines a little bit more. That one I made a blurb on there, so just have to kind of blend it out and correct it. And so yeah, you could use that credit card instead of that palette knife. I use the credit card actually a ton in my art, so it just really depends. So just darkening that. And I'm getting toward the end, it looks like, I think. I'm still trying to figure out like what is missing. I'm feeling at this point like especially the one on the left was a little bit bugging me, I think because I made those lines right down the center. And as much as I love continuity and things being centered, I also know it doesn't look right in a lot of art. And so I was trying to figure out how to, I don't know, fix that feeling for me. And again, it is just a feeling. It's just I look at it and it appeals to me or it doesn't. And I do still work in the kind of the rule of thirds of you want to use odd numbers, odd number of lines, odd number of dots. And then also breaking up a piece of art into thirds and not thinking of I want to center everything. So even for abstract, I'm totally thinking that way, because that's just actually more appealing to the eye. And I'm getting pretty close to being done here. Oh, I'm cutting off that raw edge. I thought maybe I would keep a raw edge for that card, but then I decided I didn't want to. So, but you can, and it can be another element of interest. You can add ribbon, or I was going to add staples, just like to kind of, you can even sew them, you put it through your sewing machine, which would add a neat element. So I decided these all needed dots again. And I think that's about where it's gonna wrap up. And then I'll probably cover these with Mod Podge just to create more stiffness in the card and protection for the paint. And that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching.